Hello, Carlo.
Mafia: The Definitive Edition is developed by Hangar 13 and published by 2K Games. The story is set within a fictional city of Lost Heaven, which is basically like a combo of Chicago and New York in different cities, during the final years of Prohibition in the 1930s. The game's protagonist, Thomas Angelo, who is a cab driver at the beginning of the game, is forced by two members of the Saleri crime family, Paulie and Sam, into helping them escape an ambush by the Morello family. That is kind of where it is. The game's main story involves two major mafia families. That would be the Saleri family and the Morello family. They kind of fight to control over the city's rackets and different things after a third mafia family met their demise. After he helped Paulie and Sam escape, Tommy loses his job as a cab driver because the Morello family target him in an act of revenge. Because of this, Tommy asks Don Saleri for help to get revenge and retribution for the attacks on him, and agrees to join Saleri's organization and run his rackets. And that kind of sets up how Tommy became the mobster that he becomes in the game.
What do they call you, son?
Thomas Angelo, sir.
Frank told me you ran into some trouble?
Yes, sir. My cab got smashed up pretty good.
Morello's thugs went after him on account of Tommy helping us.
This, taxi, that's your livelihood?
Yes, sir.
I feel a sense of responsibility here. So I'm going to set you up with a small loan, enough to get that cab of yours fixed up.
I appreciate that, sir, but I'm not looking for a handout.
Then what are we doing here?
I just want a shot at the bastards who wrecked my cab.
You hear that, Frank? The kid wants my permission to get into a fight.
Yes, I heard.
So in terms of my thoughts on the story, first off, I personally have never played the first Mafia game, the original in 2002. I have played Mafia 2 and Mafia 3. Mafia 2 was a great game, and Mafia 3 kind of left more to be desired, but it was okay. My thoughts on this game, the definitive edition for Mafia 1, is it's right up there with Mafia 2. And maybe for some people, the original, they may think the same thing. It may be their favorite Mafia. But for me, the definitive edition story-wise is right up there with Mafia 2. It's just a fantastic Mafia story that any studios looking to kind of make a Mafia-style game in the future should probably kind of use this and Mafia 2 as like a template on how to do a good, authentic Mafia-type story. In my opinion, there's not enough Mafia games. You know, I love the Mafia. I love Mafia stuff. The Yakuza games are great. That's Japanese Mafia. I'm hoping to get some sort of like trend towards like 1920s to 1940s Mafia stuff because it really is really interesting. I know Empire of Sin comes out in December, which is a Mafia Empire strategy type game that I'm excited for. So I'm hoping that trend keeps going. There's a lot of potential in those stories, and this game kind of proves just how good a Mafia game can be when it's done well and not done like Mafia 3. Beyond that, the graphics of the game are just incredible compared to the original, which it will be. I mean, the game came out in 2002. It hasn't really aged that well graphically, but this game kind of brings it to that like Mafia 3 level of facial animations. That was probably the best part of Mafia 3, was those facial animations and the graphics above all else. The voice acting in the game compared to the original game, based on a playthrough I saw, I had to go look up the original to see the voice acting in the game, just majorly improved. I could say that in the original, the voice acting was a little robotic and not as believable. In this game, it's really good. They kind of recast the entire voice acting crew, I believe, and it really shows because it really brings the game to life and adds a more of a spark to the game that the original game didn't have. But like I said, if you love Mafia stories, specifically good ones, then this is a story you should not miss. The gameplay of the game is your typical cover shooter. You get into cover, and then you'll have guys that are in cover, they'll pop out, and that's your time to try to headshot them. Your typical kind of like Uncharted kind of cover shooter. And that's what most of your combat will be. It's either that or chase mission in vehicles or different vehicles, stuff like that. Just like the original game, players control, as I said, Tommy throughout the game's story. If you've played Mafia 3, then the gameplay for the Definitive Edition should be very familiar, I would say, to you. As Hangar 13 took a lot of the assets from Mafia 3 for the gameplay, for better or for worse. Because the gameplay can be clunky at times, which can kind of take away from the experience for some. And the driving is just not good at times. The driving is just weird at times. You just slide all over the place, trying not to crash into every corner or wall you come across. They basically want you to drift every corner, but instead you'll catch yourself drifting into posts and walls more often than successfully turning the corner. You do start to get used to it as you go deeper and deeper and deeper into the game. We're talking like a late game. It took me to actually get used to the drifting in the game. It is a learning process that I feel like the game could have improved on since you spend a lot of the game driving around in the first place. Take a certain race mission that makes you want to throw the controller through the goddamn wall, as turning in that part of the game on every corner is just ridiculous. Just, oh my god, that's the most frustrating part of the game by far, is that race mission where every corner you're sliding into the wall or sliding off the track no matter how much you slow down. It's just really, really just, it gets to you. It gets on your nerves, that mission. So yeah, the gameplay could have been better overall to go with the story that in general is really good. Outside the main story, the game also has a free ride mode, which allows players to explore the city at their own leisure without any mandatory mission objectives. There are some little side things you can do in here, but there's no mandatory. You can drive around, causing chaos as much as you want, and there's nothing holding you to some sort of objective. But there are hidden secrets that you can uncover in the free ride mode, so it's not for nothing. There is things you can do, but like I said, overall the gameplay could have been better. And I hope if Hangar 13 makes a Mafia 4, they actually take their time and effort, improve the gameplay, not do what they did in Mafia 3, and they make something special. Because they didn't make Mafia 1 and Mafia 2, but I hope they take inspiration from those games when they make Mafia 4. Oh shit. Ah! It's all good! Don't worry about it, Kappa. It's fine. Turn, keep going. I would never dangerous drive. There are a few collectibles in the game, such as magazines, known as pulps, comics, cigarette cards, and postcards you can find in different areas throughout the map. That's basically all your little side things. This game is very, very linear. This is a very linear game that you just have a few collectibles you can find in the areas that you're in throughout the map. It's an open kind of city area, but there's not a lot to do with it. That happens a lot in Mafia games. That needs to change. Give more side missions, more things to do in the game besides the main story. You can also collect different cards throughout the game that you can find by either, breaking out the windows or picklocking and driving it back to the garage at your base. Once you do that, it then carries over to the other garage where you can customize it. And you can change the interior color and the exterior color of the vehicle in different variants of the cars, such as having a top or no top, etc. Also, different cars will have different acceleration, braking, grip sliders, along with different top speed, power, etc. So it is a good idea to try to get as many cars as you can, to try to maybe get the best vehicle for certain situations. If you're getting into a situation where you have to run from the cops, you can then hopefully have a vehicle that has the top speed where it's easier to outrun them otherwise. That way you're not struck with some huge truck that can't outrun them, or it takes you forever to outrun them. But that is mostly it. You're collecting cars and all the little things I mentioned before, the magazines, the comics, the cigarette cards, and the postcards. It's not a lot. Mafia games don't have a lot. They're very linear stories. Something that I hope they change in the future. But until then, there's not much more else to say. That's the collectibles. Like I said, not much, but it is something else for you to do and pay attention to. In terms of the final score, I would say this game is really good. The story is really good. I would say the game is held back slightly by the fact of how kind of bad the driving mechanics can be, especially in that one mission that we talked about earlier. Just how bad the mechanics can be, it kind of hurts the game a little bit. That is otherwise a fantastic story. Sure, the shooting sections isn't anything special. They're basically just shooting galleries, and even at that, the shooting gallery sections, there's no Uncharted with explosions and stuff. It's nothing special. The shooting galleries just are what they are. But it is a game that they're remaking from 2002, but in the remake they could have, spiced it up a little, but it is what it is. It wasn't boring. It just wasn't anything special in terms of gameplay altogether. But the story is the highlight here. It's really, really good. And that's why I'm giving the game an 8 out of 10. Whatever Hangar 13 does, if they could just work on the gameplay, work on the driving, just make it better. Just make it more fun for everybody involved. Because Mafia 3 wasn't that fun. It had good cutscenes, and the story altogether, you piece the cutscenes together, they were good, but the game overall wasn't that good. It suffered because of the gameplay. And I don't want whatever they do in the future to also have that happen to it, because if they use, like I said, if they use Mafia 2 and Mafia 1 as a template to future Mafia games, they could have something going for them. But besides that, that's going to do it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you like the video, hit the like button. If you like the content we're putting out, podcasts, reviews, playthroughs, hit the subscribe button. We would all appreciate it. But outside that, that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I will talk to you next time. Bye, guys.